Well, I don't have, I think, the most exciting subject in the world today, but it is a subject that impacts every single one of us, and it's about data security. And I'm really going to dig into after Power School. I'll tell you a little bit about what happened with Power School and the data loss, and then what you as a parent, family, or school administrator, school person that works at schools needs to start doing about this because it is going to impact us all. And I got to say, even in our business, we get a lot of questions, and it's mainly from reporters. But how do we get our data? How do we find parents? How do we find families to recruit? Well, outside of a lot of door knocking, a lot of phone calls, yeah, I mean, there's data on us all, and it is a big brother world out there, and people broker and selling data, and it's real. But the issue is, did they come by that data legally? Did we opt in? Were we given a choice, or did they steal the data from somebody else? And in the United States, we still, and this is awesome, really protect the identity of children. And it goes back to FERPA, which is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. And so we really do value children's privacy more than adults, and that's good. But PowerSchool is charged with protecting student data. So PowerSchool is this massive company that does student information systems. Okay, so let's kind of get into what happened. So federal prosecutors say that a 19-year-old Massachusetts college student got into PowerSchool systems using stolen employee credentials, like a badge and stuff, right? And they pulled records on 60 million students. 60 million students. I found that very interesting because there aren't 60 million students in the K-12 space in the entire nation right now. It's around 50 million. So just remember 60 million, which is more students than are actually in school, right? And this guy basically, this 19-year-old college student, tried to blackmail PowerSchool, and he demanded $2.85 million. I don't know why $2.85 million, why not 3 or 2, but $2.85 million in Bitcoin, and told PowerSchool that he would destroy their company if they didn't pay. Now, he is now sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. Federal is really tough. In federal prison, owes like $14 million in restitution. And, what are the lingering effects of this? So PowerSchool represents 18,000 schools. 18,000 schools. Big. Now there are a lot more than that. There's actually, I think, just over, give or take, around 13,000 public school districts, and then you have charter schools and virtual schools, and PowerSchool represents them all, right? So, but these are individual schools, right? And in late 2024, an attacker got a badge, staff data, and in January, everything was exposed. So this attacker's name was Matthew Delane, and he's from Massachusetts. And at the time, he was a freshman at Assumption University. I never heard of that, but Assumption University. And prosecutors said he was not some bored kid, hacking and having a good time. They called him a sophisticated, financially motivated cyber criminal because, well, that's what he was. So let's call a duck a duck. He pled guilty in June of 2025 to cyber extortion, aggravated identity theft, and unauthorized access to protected computers. Okay. The method. Lane didn't attack the mainframe. He didn't hack the mainframe. He used credentials from a PowerSchool employee and a contractor to get legitimate access. Then moved through the network and copied massive amounts of data that prosecutors say he then staged that data on a rented server in the Ukraine, of all places, in the Ukraine, and used it to try to extort the money. So the threat was that in December of 2024, he reached out to PowerSchool, demanded this ransom of this $2.85 million in Bitcoin, and he warned if they didn't play ball, he was going to leak all these children's names, their social security numbers, their medical information, and even special education information. And quoting prosecutors, he fully intended to destroy the company and bankrupt it to the point of absolute no return. Now, PowerSchool was bought a few years back for $5.4 billion. This is not some little company. It's a big boy, right? Big company. Now, PowerSchool paid. They paid a ransom, okay? And prosecutors and PowerSchool both confirmed that the payment was made to try to stop the leak, right? and that the ransom plus the cost of identity theft monitoring was calculated like $14 million in financial impact, which is why he has this $14 million judgment against him on top of being in jail, which he'll never pay, by the way. How's he going to get that kind of money unless he steals it from somebody else? And so in October 14th, a federal judge in Worcester, Massachusetts, which I think is where the university is. I think that's where Assumption University is. Sentenced Lane to the 4 years in prison, 3 years of supervised release, $25,000 fine, $14 million in restitution. And the prosecutors actually asked for 7 years. But he cried out in sentencing. He told the judge that he was thankful he got caught or something, and that he robbed actual people and their families out of their sense of security. So he kind of ate the bullet a little bit. So he admitted it. So he got 4 years. So, why this shook so many school districts across the nation and why you should be concerned is that this is a real trust problem. And Powerschool, like I said before, wasn't some teeny startup that just kind of messed up. This is a company that districts lean on for their entire student information system, which included grades, attendance records, IEP data, medical information, disciplinary notes. I mean, the whole kit and caboodle, including social security numbers. And if you got a person's, their mother's maiden name and social security number, man, you can make their lives hell by stealing their identity forever. And identity thefts would love this information because they're going to get credit cards and buy cars and houses and anything based on it. So it really does have like a big effect, right? And so I'm not glad that this happened, but I am glad that we're talking about cybersecurity and it's becoming real. HIPAA is a law for medical files and records, and FERPA is a law to protect these kids, and it's being breached. But now what? Because the data's still out, right? So what superintendents and parents should be asking is, who else is holding our data? And how are we going to protect it? Like, those should be some questions that all communities should rise up and be like, hey, man, don't get alarmed, don't freak, because the data's out there. You're not going to uncork that. People have got to hold data in computer systems for sure. But like, who has it? How are they protecting it? And then what happens when they're done with it? What happens when they're done with the data? Do they purge it? All right. So let's keep that in mind. I've got a kind of a little aha moment coming that I had when I was preparing for this. So, and it's also important to know that Lane didn't use brute force or some cool hacking program. He just got real credentials, went in there and got it done. So, the district can spend money on security tech and the information can still get owned because a vendor account got reused or phished or sold or somebody loaned their badge to somebody, right? So it could just be as easy. It's like keeping your password taped up to your computer. Not that I do that anymore. I don't keep my passwords taped onto my computer for ease of access anymore. Don't look at my office, all right? I don't use the password 1111 anymore for things, all right? So the prosecutors said that the scale of exposure was over 60 million students and around 10 million teachers also. Their names, phone numbers, social security numbers, all the same stuff about teachers too, to the extent they had it. So even after they paid, the data wasn't fully destroyed. Court filings say that the attackers turned around and started shaking down individual districts directly in the U.S. and Canada, because Canada where Powerschool is also. So that districts are now seeing firsthand, if your vendor gets hit, you're going to get extorted too. And everyone's going to be affected by this stuff. So we really need some policy shifts. And I do want to go through a few claims that I want you to watch out for when you're starting to think about these policy shifts and what your school districts can do better, what families should demand, what school districts should demand, other vendors, et cetera, right? And first on the claim, we're good. We got insurance. We got like great security systems. Well, if the entry point was a valid credential, all the security mechanisms in the world won't stop you, right? So are vendors time limited? Do accounts live together? Do they permanently have like these God keys for contractors that aren't even involved anymore? All right. So think about what happens with actual access, not just great defensive from hacking programs. Some people just borrow the key card, I guess. What was that? Was that, I cannot remember. I don't think it was Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but it was one of those where the kid would get into trouble and he would walk into the principal's office where they kept the passwords. Oh, it was War Games. It was War Games. And he would figure out the password in the desk, and he would open up, get the password, and he would change his grade. So he'd get into trouble just because he knew where they wrote the password down. And all the security systems of the world aren't going to protect you if the password's written down next to the computer, guys. So not going to help you. All right. So let's make sure we have better security than just hacking programs, right? And then it was this claim that we should keep all records online forever just in case. Well, we only have about 50 million students. They lost, and by the way, Powerschool doesn't represent every student. It's a portion of those. I don't know what it is in terms of total student counts in a year, but let's say it's 20. Well, that means they keep their stored data that they don't need anymore. And it also means students that have aged out and are no longer in school, at least 10 million of them, because even if you take every student they have today, which they don't have, all 50 million, there's still an extra 10 million because of 60 million, right? So they kept 10 million records at minimum of kids that are literally adults now. And why in the world would they need to be in some student information system? I get it, like graduation date, proof of a diploma or graduation, but you don't need my social security number. You're not giving me social security. You don't need that number. You don't need my medical information. You're not giving me any doctor's care. I am not in your schools anymore. Just let people know when I graduated as proof, and then purge the rest of it. And then we had this claim that IT will handle it. Well, we've got a great IT department. And remember, Lane got 4 years because it crossed into extortion and identity theft and interstate computer crime. And that's not IT. That's a legal risk, a financial risk, a PR risk, an employment risk. And so if you're a superintendent or school board member or parent, it's not just an IT issue. It's a compliance issue across all departments, and you need somebody with their little eyes looking around at all this stuff. And then is that this claim that parents only care when the systems go down. Well, maybe that's true, but parents care when they hear that their 8-year-old social security number is on a server in Ukraine. Like, they're going to care about this, right? This is going to hit you as a crisis if you're not getting prepared and at least trying to build better systems. I'm not saying that you can ever do anything to stop it forever and permanently and 100% concrete. But you've got to work on being better, right? You got to work on making sure that, hey, we do an audit once a year. We make sure that people don't have passwords out. They don't give their key cards to people. We have a great IT department. We also ask them to purge old data, and we ask them not to maintain data they do not need. Like our company, for instance, I don't even want that kind of data here. I don't want anybody's social security number. Even if you could buy it, which I don't think you can even buy it, never even tried. I don't even want it. I don't want access. And when we're recruiting a parent, and we're door knocking, we do not ask you for any of that information. I don't want to know that. You give it to the school if you want, but don't give it to me, okay? Because I would not even want to get into an issue about that. So let's talk a little bit about messaging real quick. Is that you got to make it human. And I think you got to be honest that like a 19-year-old got into a national K-12 platform using a username and password. He told him he was going to bankrupt the company. It ended in federal court. And here's what we're going to do about it to make sure it doesn't happen to us, or it did happen to us. And here's what we're going to do. But it's got to be about protecting the kids' information is part of your entire job. There are 3 overriding factors on what keeps a person in your school and what makes them pick a new school. And the number 1 is safety. It's always safety. Every school, every national poll, every individual poll, number 1 thing is safety, especially for the younger kids. And then it becomes, as they get a little older, safety, and then will they be a success? Like, does my child have a great future? And then there's always a third that's very, very district specific, very school specific. But safety is always 1 or 2. For the younger kids, always number 1. So bullying, gun violence, COVID, sickness, whatever, and now national security issues, privacy rights, right? Don't have my kid's social security number get stolen. What are you doing about it? Have a plan and convey that plan to families. Don't hide from it, right? So I hope this helps. I hope that you're looking at data security. I hope you're getting ahead of it. It's tough. It's arduous, but have a plan. Talk to your vendors. especially the ones with the SIS that have all the data, and plus anybody that can have access, or your employees that could just accidentally not be as tight as they should. All right. Hope this helps. Bye.